This is the Loudon Nelson Center, considered Moscow West. This is where Gary Patton, Leon Panetta, Mike Rotkin expressed their love, appreciation, and solidarity with former communist organizer Dorothy Baskin and Hugh DeLacy. In their proclamation, these liberals refer to themselves as comrades. Of course, DeLacy wasn't just a common street communist. He had connections with Agnes Smedley, Frederick Vanderbilt Field, and Gunther Stein. Their treason resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of people and the loss of countries such as China to the communist Chinese. Standing in front of the Loudon Nelson Center, this was a meeting place of Hugh DeLacy, Leon Panetta, Gary Patton, and a number of other so-called liberals. And this was sometime after Leon Panetta had already been involved with the Rockefeller network and organization under the United States Senator Kuechel. And at this meeting here, it included Dan Bessie, who was active with the Fair Play for Cuba, and also the Youth Action Union, which is the linear descendant of the Young Communist League. But they signed off a petition dedicating their love, appreciation, and solidarity, and referred to themselves as Conrad for this person that was deadly force. When Hugh DeLacy died, he left all of his tools and instruments that he had left with him to communist Castro. And that's the story. But this is interesting that this is part of the roots between the Rockefeller family. He's basically, Leon Panetta has been the adoptee, inducted into the Rockefeller family, and his communist connections, which really there is no difference between the two. They're not antagonistic towards each other at all. They're part of the Hegelian tools in order to manipulate the people, pushing them towards a world government. Yeah, this is the center, which has been really a boon to the community, is named after Loudon Nelson, who donated his will to the community and to this community center. And we see no longer a slave encased here in glass. Unfortunately, the people that are working on the agenda, United Nations Agenda 21 and the North American Union, are designing to put people back into slavery. And that was what that meeting was all about. Unless you think that the Soviet Union was the ideal utopia that people should have to live in. Yeah, everybody here is having fun. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. But many of them are clueless. The newspapers over the decades has been controlled for a while by the Wall Street Journal, which is Ottaway News Services. In fact, Peter Elliott, his wife Karen House, was related to Colonel House, who advocated a North American Union and put together a program for a military dictatorship under his book, Philip Drew Administrator. The Republican Rockefeller editor for the newspaper during that time is Bruce McPherson. He is to this day working under Rockefeller auspices. The California Forward, which is an extension of Common Cause, is one of the organizations lobbying for a North American Union and the uniformation or the reform of California Constitution to make it more acceptable to the world cartels. Presently, the Bill Gates Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates, are both members of the Bilderberger Society, and they presently own the Santa Cruz Sentinel, the Monterey Herald, and the San Jose Mercury. When Bruce McPherson was the editor, his chief columnist for the seniors in this community, which is a retirement center, was a man by the name of Claude Pepper. And U.S. News and World Report said Pepper's foremost advocate of the Russian policy, specializing in pro-Soviet propaganda. He hired a man by the name of Charles Kramer, who was a member of the Ware and parallel Soviet spy rings. Again, we're talking about heavy duty. These aren't just people wanting peace or civil rights and being sucked into some communist front. These are people actually connected with espionage agents. And of course, they've always endorsed Leon Panetta to be as a member of Congress when his congressional races came up, and they have always promoted people like John Laird to the state assembly. But the difference between the Republicans and Democrats is artificial, just as the difference between the communists and the multinationals. Communism, you've got to understand, is a tool of the banking establishment. Communism isn't there to overthrow the banking establishment. It is a tool of the banking establishment to impose slavery, a world government under a United Nations modulated, controlled situation where people are merely human resources.